Hey, what up, folks? Welcome to the Film Focus page. Again, it's me, Mr. P, and I'm going to be giving you my newest film review of Murder on the Orient Express, directed by Kenneth Brannagh and starring an A-list cast which includes Dame Judi Dench, Kenneth Branagh himself, Johnny Depp, Michelle Pfeiffer, Penelope Cruz, and Willem Dafoe. Now, this film is the fourth adaptation based on the Agatha Christie classic, Murder on the Orient Express. The first one was directed in 1974 by Sidney Lumet and starred Albert Finney, Sean Connery, Lauren Bacall, Ingrid Bergman, Sir John Gielgud, and a host of other A-list cast actors, including, of stage and screen. And this film was a critical and commercial success. They then did another version with Alfred Molina in the early noughties, which was an adequate watch, or I'd say, or pretty much lukewarm. Then they did the third version in 2010, starring David Suchet. And for me, bar none, that has to be the best adaptation of the Murder on Orient Express. It was beautifully written, very well acted, it was beautifully told, and it kept in line with the novel. There were certain parts of the original that was done in 1974 that weren't included, that were included in this version. And I thought that this film ticks all the boxes. And for me, that stands as the best adaptation to date. Now, fast forward to today. When I learnt that Kenneth Brannagh was going to be doing a new version of this film, I thought, okay, they've got their work cut out for them. It's a very well-known story. What are you going to do differently in this film that wasn't done in the previous three adaptations? I learned that Kenneth Branagh himself was going to be starring in this film as Poirot. And he's a very good actor. He's a very good director as well. And then I learned of the actors that were going to be starring in this film that was going to be an all-star cast. I thought, okay, we've got something here. But at the same time, an all-star cast doesn't guarantee that the film will be good. It has to have a good script. And this film had a lot of things going against it. The fact that it's such a well-known story, the fact that, everybody knows it, the fact that it's been done before, what are you going to do differently? I saw this film, and leaving the film, I felt underwhelmed. Really, I thought that the film failed on so many levels. I mean, let me just give you a premise of what the film is. Now, the film is about based on the Agatha Christie classic, and it has Hercule Poirot investigating the murder of an American businessman, Mr. Ratchet. And Poirot discovers that Ratchet has a really sinister past, that he was actually an American gangster responsible for a kidnapping of a little girl and eventually killing her. And one of the passengers on the train was responsible for the murder. And for me, when I saw this film, I thought that they didn't do anything different with this film. They aimed for bouts of comedy in the film. Some worked, some didn't. I also thought that one of the main characters in the film, Colonel Arbuthnot, who was played by Sean Connery in the original, and is played by an American actor called Lamar Odom Jr. in this film, this character is now played by a black person. And so they play around with the race element in this film. And for me, besides that, nothing new was brought to this film at all. I felt that, I was underwhelmed terribly. I felt that a lot of the cast members in this film were terribly underused, including Dame Judi Dench, who played Princess Dragomirov. She only had about 3 or 4 lines of dialogue in this film. The film is beautifully shot, but it just doesn't do anything, and you find that the film runs out of steam very quickly. The film doesn't fall in the tradition of the typical murder mystery. Kenneth Brannagh, who plays Hercule Poirot, he pretty much deciphers a lot of the clues and starts making revelations during the middle of the film, when traditionally all the revelations are to be made at the end of the film. I felt that he did a good interpretation of Poirot, but again, the prize for that still goes to David Suchet and Peter Ustinov as two of the best interpretations of Poirot ever. I also thought that his moustache in the film was quite ridiculous. The supporting cast in this film are good, but on the whole, they're all terribly underused. Johnny Depp, who plays Mr. Ratchet in this film, he's terribly underused. Well, I mean, even though his character only has a few lines of dialogue and is only in the first half of the film, I felt that, as a film, it wasn't that great. There were some good performances, but as a whole, the film runs out of steam very quickly. And even at the final revelation, I think that it could have been a little bit better. I think they could have seen how they did it in the previous versions, where Poirot rounds up all the guests and he deciphers his interpretation of how the murder was committed. It was done to some capacity, but not to the way that it should have been, where it was taught, where it kept everybody on their edge, and it just didn't work for me. I found I was totally underwhelmed. And How this film will fare at the box office, I don't know. But a spoiler alert, there is a possibility of a sequel. You know, as Poirot leaves the Orient Express, you know, one person comes up to him and says, well, you know, we've had a murder on the now, to imply, you know, death on the now, you know, the 1978 classic starring Peter Ustinov. So for me, this wasn't a very good film at all. I found it to be very disappointing. Well, you know what, let me rephrase that. It's not a bad film, you know, and then it's just that they didn't bring anything different to this film. If you're going to do an adaptation of a film, if you're going to do a remake a film that's already done, what are you going to bring differently to this role? And with the they added hints of humour. They added an actor of colour to play one of the main protagonists. That was it. Other than that, nothing was different. You know, and for me, I found this film to be a bit of a waste. You know, so I'll give this film 4 out of 10. You know, and is this one to watch? If you've seen the originals, this one fails to meet the expectations and fails to be on par with any of the original versions. So I'll say no. Is it one to have in the DVD collection? No. If you've got the originals, you know, the one with David Suchet and the one with Albert Finney, those ones are far superior and far more enjoyable. So, no. Murder on the Orient Express, one to avoid. Which is a shame, really, because I had quite high hopes for this film. So, that's my review of Murder on the Orient Express. Tell me what you think. Follow me on Instagram, follow me on Facebook. Feel free to leave your comments below. Let me know what is your favourite Agatha Christie film. And I shall see you on the next film review, which will be Justice League. Stay blessed.